41. There's no way to avoid it. Me? Spar with you? Chen Xiao blinked. In the original story, Genos had rushed off to spar with the bald demon king Saitama and been terrorized by a single punch. After his transmigration, fate had put him in Genos' place as the disciple. Now Genos wanted to spar with him again. Was the world line converging? Genos' face was deathly serious, his eyes burning with contempt for his own weakness. He clenched his fists. Teacher King, after the last battle, I understood how weak I am. I also understood your lesson. Practice is the only test of truth. If I want to keep getting stronger, I have to fight stronger opponents. You are the strongest person I know. Please spar with me. Go all out. Even a killing blow is fine, but don't hold back. Chen Xiao had to laugh out of frustration. It wasn't that he feared Genos' challenge. It was that he dreaded misjudging Genos' strength. If he used only a bit too much force, he could turn the cyborg into spare parts. The current financially strapped hero was just too frail. If Chen Xiao truly wanted to kill him, a flick on the forehead would scatter him. But looking at Genos, Chen Xiao understood one thing. If he refused, Genos would pester him every day like stubborn tape. All right, I'll call one more person. He waved a hand and dialed. Battle intent flickered in his eyes. Qi and blood surged through him. His aura shifted. If Genos wanted to grow by fighting stronger foes, Chen Xiao wanted to know something too. After getting this much stronger, could he take one of the bald demon king's ordinary punches? Even if he couldn't, it wouldn't be fatal. Saitama didn't kill people. At worst, he'd be flattened for 2 seconds and then recover. Far from the city, the Kitsuchi wastes rolled on in yellow dust. 3 figures stood in the drifting sand and eyed one another. On the left, a neat crop of golden hair and a white shirt sat above exposed mechanical parts. Genos. In the center, a tall, solid man with long golden hair and 3 fierce scars across his left eye gave off a domineering, intimidating air. Chen Xiao. On the right, checking his watch and fretting, was a shiny bald head, the bald demon king himself. King, aren't we cutting it close? We have to get to Master Bang's dojo in 2 hours. What if he doesn't give us anything to eat? Saitama fretted. Chen Xiao patted Saitama's shoulder. It'll be quick. These 2 sparring matches will be over fast. They would be quick, for different reasons. Genos versus Chen Xiao had no suspense. Chen Xiao versus Saitama? Still no suspense. Then you 2 fight first. I'll watch. Saitama pulled a manga from nowhere and with a flash appeared on a nearby mountaintop where the sand wasn't as bad. He lay there with his legs crossed, reading. Chen Xiao nodded at Genos. You can begin. Genos' expression hardened. The core in his chest flared brilliant blue, power streamed through every joint and limb, his forearms reconfigured into a complex cannon turret, energy built in the muzzle, crackling with crimson light. Please guide me, Teacher King, superpowered burn cannon. He didn't hold back. He unleashed his ultimate move at once. A violent orange beam laced with lightning shot forward, scorching the ground in its path. It was the kind of attack that could obliterate most demon-level threats, and even injure dragon-level ones. Chen Xiao only stood there. When the beam was less than a meter away, Chen Xiao casually swatted it with one hand. The burn cannon's blast was deflected. It slammed into the sand and detonated, throwing up a mushroom of dust, but it never touched Chen Xiao. He stood wrapped in a faint green psychic shield that kept the flying grit off him. Genos had expected his ultimate might not seriously hurt Chen Xiao, but he hadn't expected it to be swatted aside like a fly. He shouted and lit his propulsion units. Trails of crimson fire marked his body as he vanished from where he'd been and reappeared behind Chen Xiao. He swung with blinding speed. Shadows of fists filled the sky. Machine gun fist. Chen Xiao turned on a dime and raised his right hand. Genos' mechanical eye contracted. He had assumed Chen Xiao would attack him while he was suspended. Since he couldn't dodge, he'd go all out. Propulsion burst. His punching speed escalated, each blow a blur. But Chen Xiao didn't attack. He only stood and moved his right hand, catching each rapid punch one after another. Every strike was stopped, none of them hurting him. Genos' eyes flashed. After another punch was effortlessly caught, the fist Chen Xiao held flared with a blinding light. Burn cannon. This was exactly Genos' plan. Once he realized his punches were being reliably caught, he intended to fire the burn cannon at point-blank range the moment Chen Xiao made contact, leaving no time or room to avoid it. 42. The outcome is already decided. A dazzling blaze split the sky. The mountain behind them disintegrated into ash under that violent beam of light, leaving only a flattened slope. Before Genos could even catch his breath, he realized the right hand he'd just used to fire his burn cannon was stuck. He couldn't pull it back. When the smoke and dust cleared, Chen Xiao stood almost completely unscathed. Genos' attack had failed to breach the pale green psychic power shield wrapped around him. Even with his massive chi and psychic power, Genos hadn't managed to pierce it. He fell silent, head bowed. He had watched Chen Xiao fight before. He knew exactly what this meant. Master King's strength is his true forte, and I don't even have the qualification to force him to use his full power, Genos thought. What a joke, he snapped, throwing his head up. Golden light flared in his eyes as two miniature cannons extended from his pupils and spat out piercing lasers. The beams sliced the air and struck the surface of Chen Xiao's barrier, yet they couldn't move it an inch. Chen Xiao glanced at the lasers with mild surprise. That move hadn't appeared in the original story. Was it a new technique Genos had invented? My transmigration really is changing a lot of small things, he mused. The move was clever for a sneak attack, but its power and range paled beside the burn cannon. He voiced the assessment matter-of-factly. He wasn't trying to belittle Genos. He was doing his job as a teacher. When a teacher and pupil spar, the teacher points out flaws so the student can improve. It's not over yet, Genos roared. The laser beams snapped off as his propulsion systems kicked in. He became an afterimage, weaving through the air like a streaking flame. With a mechanical roar, he flashed behind Chen Xiao, flames jetting from his heels as he brought his leg around in a crushing kick that slammed into the psychic power shield. Burn cannon! A barrel extended from his toe, and the burn cannon detonated against the shield. Scorching tongues of fire and golden energy swallowed Chen Xiao's figure. Genos drew back, blue arcs of electricity dancing over his mechanical frame, his face tight with strain. He had used so many techniques in rapid succession, especially firing a superpowered burn cannon so early that his systems were feeling the load. Will this work? He thought. Can it actually break Master King's defenses? Chen Xiao stepped out of the fire. The flames and energy were kept a meter away from him by the shield. Beneath it, he was untouched. He smiled, finally offering a bit of praise. Nice idea. Turning every part of your body into a cannon instead of limiting yourself to your hands can catch an enemy off guard. Did you come up with that yourself? Genos shook his head. No, it's an improvement based on your style, Master King. When you fight, you treat every part of your body like a weapon. I just added cannons to every part that can attack, so I can fire energy at any moment. So I was the inspiration, Chen Xiao thought, amused. Whoever invented psychic power, what a useful ability. The reason he kept the shield active wasn't that he feared physical damage from Genos. He didn't want his clothes ruined. This kid was sly. Every fight he launched ultra-high temperature burn cannons, probably just to incinerate an opponent's clothes and see them naked. If Chen Xiao had been hit directly, his body would have been fine, but his clothes would have burned away. Genos' tone grew urgent. Master King, stop only defending. Attack me. Please, go all out. From the start, Genos had been the one striking, while Chen Xiao had only defended and critiqued. Genos believed a meaningful duel required both sides trading blows. Only then could one feel what it meant to grow stronger in a life-or-death crisis, not just to be the one dishing out damage. The mechanical boy's insistence showed it mattered to him. Chen Xiao scratched his head. He probably had to finish this now. The moment Genos finished speaking, Chen Xiao transformed into a crimson streak of light and closed the distance in an instant. So fast! Genos' pupils contracted. He swung a mechanical fist with a metallic boom aimed at the incoming Chen Xiao, but the next second, Chen Xiao's figure vanished from his mechanical scan. Too slow. Don't always rely on mechanical scanning. You must learn to perceive your opponent's position, a deep voice said behind him. Genos spun cannons out from his back and unleashed a burn cannon that swept the area behind him, kicking up a cloud of pale yellow sand. He froze mid-burst, staring in disbelief at the palm already pressed against his core, his short golden hair ruffled by the sand-laden wind. Chen Xiao had returned from behind and stood directly in front of him before he even registered it. The fist radiated immense power, only a few centimeters from Genos' blue core. As a cyborg, Genos could survive having his body torn apart. His true lifeline was that core. If Chen Xiao extended his hand a few more centimeters and crushed it, Genos would die instantly. He stood there stunned, not expecting the spar to end so fast. In a real fight, the moment an enemy's attack drew that close to his core, it would already be over. He said nothing, just stared at Chen Xiao, confusion and shock in his eyes. The winner is decided. Chapter 43, The Source of the Energy Burst. It's fine. You still have plenty of room to grow stronger. After this battle, I'll point out many areas for you to improve. I'll go through them with you slowly when the time comes. Genos was stunned. As he looked up, Chen Xiao, Master King, grabbed his collar and flung him aside. He was thrown into the air, bewildered, as words drifted into his ears over the howling wind. Next, I'll let you experience what a battle between true powerhouses is like, but you better stay far away, or you might die just from grazing the shockwaves. A battle between powerhouses? Genos scanned his surroundings. Besides him, there were only two people left, Master King and the inscrutable S-class hero, the bald cape hero, Saitama. Could this be why Master King had asked Saitama to come today? Were they about to fight? Genos had heard that Tatsumaki, the Hero Association's trump card and the ceiling of its power, had been defeated by both of them in turn. He realized the fight unfolding now was very likely a clash between the era's top powerhouses. Chen Xiao planted himself in the yellow sand and waved up at Saitama, who was still leisurely reading manga on the mountaintop. It's settled here. Come down. Oh, Saitama leapt down and landed directly in front of Genos, shoving the manga in his hand at him. Genos, keep an eye on this for me. Be careful not to damage it. It's a limited edition. Ever since becoming an S-class hero, Saitama's standard of living had risen. He no longer read low-quality pirated manga. He actually bought limited editions signed by the author now. Genos took the manga and backed away for several kilometers. Even from that distance, his mechanical eye's long-range vision picked up the scene. What would a fight between true powerhouses be like? He quietly activated his recording function. If he had a heart, it would already be racing. In the wind and sand, Chen Xiao and Saitama faced each other. Saitama, you remember what we agreed, right? Chen Xiao spoke calmly. Saitama clenched his fists, suddenly focused. The simple lines of his usual demeanor sharpened into a serious look. Of course I remember. As long as I don't use a serious punch, if I can beat you within 10 punches, you'll buy me all the new fighting games released next month, right? Yeah. Bolstered by Chen Xiao's confirmation, Saitama was instantly motivated. No more talk. Time to fight. Seeing Saitama ready, Chen Xiao didn't hold back. He opened the 7th gate of the 8 gates. White steam tinged with blue burst from his body, and surging momentum turned into invisible shockwaves that swept outward. Even from kilometers away, Genos could feel an overbearing aura from Chen Xiao that seemed to look down on the world. Thump, 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 thump. The pounding of the Emperor engine echoed through the area, as if heaven and earth beat slowly in time with his heart. Abyssal, sea-deep blood energy surged inside Chen Xiao, and his psychic power wrapped around his body, further boosting his speed and defense. The intangible energy in the surroundings flowed toward him. Instead of condensing into spheres as before, it cloaked him entirely. Drawing energy from several kilometers around, Chen Xiao's overall power rose another notch. His golden hair whipped like living snakes, blood energy overflowed, and the blue-white steam deepened into a dark blue with a hint of blood red. Using everything he had, he reached the pinnacle of his strength since his transmigration. The oppressive aura even pushed through the clouds overhead, scattering them and revealing the wide blue sky. Wow, that's pretty cool. Saitama couldn't help but praise him. The special effects were impressive. Looks like you're ready, King. Then I'm coming for you. On cue, Saitama's leg muscles coiled and released with terrifying force. The ground beneath him splintered into a bottomless trench. He blurred into an afterimage and disappeared. Chen Xiao flashed forward at the same instant. 2 streaks of light, one red, one yellow, collided in midair, and ripples of invisible shockwaves tore up the terrain. Even several kilometers away, Genos' components rattled and creaked as if they might be torn apart by the force. He had no choice but to back up another 5 or 6 kilometers. The sheer power of their blows, just the shockwaves, nearly disabled him. Was this the true strength of Master King and Mr. Saitama? Back in the association control room, alarms blared. Report: an ultra-high energy reaction has been detected 1,035 kilometers from Z City. The energy level far exceeds any dragon-level disaster recorded so far. Panicked voices echoed. Almost everyone present felt their hearts leap into their throats. What? Exceeds any dragon-level disaster? Are you serious? Exceeding all dragon levels, that would be a legendary god-level disaster, something that could wipe out humanity. Sitch, who had weathered many crises and was fighting to keep calm, immediately ordered, "Focus the satellites on the area of the energy spike. See what we can find." Shortly after, the satellite feed was projected onto the big screen. The image had been scrambled by intense energy fluctuations. It was blurry and shaky, and the audio was little more than static. Yet through the noise, a familiar sound cut through, the thunderous roar of an engine. The Emperor engine. Everyone in the control room fell silent. Sitch froze. The source of the energy burst was Mr. King, 44, a colossal dragon of vital energy. A ridiculous yet logical conclusion formed in Sitch's mind, and he was suddenly covered in cold sweat. Mr. King would not release his power casually, and this fluctuation was wildly unstable. There was only one reasonable explanation. The Zero was fighting another powerhouse. Sitch strode forward and nearly pressed his whole body against the big screen, eyes locked on the blurry image. "Who is Mr. King fighting? Can the satellite pick up the other side?" he asked. The energy released in the fight alone exceeded that of most dragon-level disasters, brushing against the legendary god level. Whoever was facing Mr. King was certainly stronger than the vast majority of dragon-level foes, possibly a god-level monster. As the satellite image cleared, a yellow bodysuit and a gleaming bald head came into view. The staff were stunned and cried out in unison, "It's the Bald Cape Hero! The one fighting Mr. King is S-Class rank 17, the Bald Cape Hero." Sitch's eyes widened. Before he could speak another word, a sharp alarm pierced the room and the screen went blood-red. A giant exclamation mark appeared in the center, and a terrifying line of text flashed beneath it. Detected energy reaction exceeding dragon-level disaster, preliminarily judged as a god-level disaster. The first punch. Chen Xiao and Saitama collided in midair. Chen Xiao's fist shimmered with golden energy, immense blood chi, and a faint green psychic power, every part of him pushed to the limit. Saitama's fist, by contrast, was simply sheathed in that plastic-looking red glove, with no flashy aura at all. The moment their fists met, Chen Xiao understood what it truly meant to be the One-Punch Man and to face the Bald Demon King. The flashy effects shattered instantly. Chen Xiao's attacking right arm screamed with the sound of bone cracking. It twisted into a grotesque shape as an inconceivable force poured into his body. He felt bones along the right side of his body splinter, and his organs lurch under massive trauma. He was blown backward like a cannonball, slamming into the ground and kicking up an endless cloud of yellow sand. The earth behind him fractured in spiderweb cracks, a crater hundreds of meters across forming in an instant. Then, in the next heartbeat, a flash of green light played over Chen Xiao's skin, and his shattered bones and ruptured organs knit themselves back together. He flew out of the crater as if nothing had happened, his clothes unstained. The truth, however, was harsher. His entire right hand had been smashed to splinters inside. The skin hadn't torn, so there was no blood. Saitama's expression changed, a rare flicker of surprise crossing his face. He stared at his own fist for a long moment, then looked at Chen Xiao, who was smiling as if nothing had happened. For the first time, Saitama's eyes brightened. "There's actually someone who can take my punch. That's great." For ages, he'd been searching for a real fight. No matter the monster, it always ended with one punch. That had grown dull. It was like using a one-hit kill cheat in a game. Thrilling at first, then meaningless. Now, seeing Chen Xiao take his blow and survive, Saitama felt a spark of excitement. Maybe, this king can give me a proper fight. He'd held back on that first punch. King was the Zero, and though Saitama knew King must be strong, he hadn't wanted to risk killing a close friend. But now he clenched his fist and vanished from sight at a speed barely perceptible to the eye. Since King could take the first hit, it wouldn't hurt to put in a little more strength. The second punch. Chen Xiao had barely recovered when Saitama reappeared. A violent gust slashed past his cheek, the wake of a punch. Holy crap! Chen Xiao barely managed to sidestep, dodging the left hook. The fist missed, but the destructive force on its surface erupted outward. The space ahead of it creaked and groaned as if it were about to be torn apart. That punch wind, carrying terrifying power, went on to flatten a mountain hundreds of meters tall. Seizing the moment, Chen Xiao narrowed his eyes, raised his fist, and drove it into Saitama's abdomen. The impact threaded through Saitama's body, leaving a white streak in the air behind him. Physically, Chen Xiao felt nothing, numb. His punch had been like a human striking a steel plate, his knuckles nearly shattered. The blow didn't harm the bald Demon King so much as send him flying. Saitama awkwardly adjusted his posture in midair under the force of the collision. Seeing him propelled back, Chen Xiao recognized the opening. This was the time to go all out. Mountain-deep blood qi erupted inside him and poured outward. The steam around him ran crimson. Every muscle surged with newfound power. Under the effect of fine control, each fiber tore and reformed as power overflowed him. The immense blood qi burned like a raging flame, and in an instant it coalesced into a roaring blood qi dragon. Watching the blood qi dragon surge into the sky, Saitama, still tumbling and flipping in midair, couldn't help but shout, "Damn, that's so cool!" Chen Xiao answered with a thought, and his vast psychic power instantly wrapped the blood qi dragon. His whole body became a vortex, ravenously drawing in the surrounding energy. Golden and green light flowed through the scarlet qi like armor. Muscles shredded and reformed, thin trails of blood running across skin, only to seal themselves almost instantly. Night Guy, Chen Xiao charged. Space twisted into spirals wherever he passed. The force shook heaven and earth, and the roaring blood qi dragon swelled huge before him. Saitama's face grew serious. He leveled himself in the air, flexed, and threw a plain, unadorned punch, the limit of his current normal punch. Any fraction more would turn it into a serious punch. Roughly 40% of his capacity was the dividing line. Genos, watching from afar, felt a bad premonition. He'd been focused on the fight so long, he hadn't realized they were about to clash with their ultimate moves. After nearly being overwhelmed by the earlier shockwaves, he bolted farther away, already 20 kilometers out and still running. "Normal punch," Saitama said, and the red-gloved fist met the blood qi dragon. A riot of energy spun outward from the impact, a colorful vortex that sent a violent shockwave in every direction. The yellow sand-filled sky trembled. The ground beneath Chen Xiao and Saitama collapsed into a bottomless chasm several kilometers wide. Surrounding land continued to fragment, destroyed by the blast. But this time, the red glove didn't simply bulldoze everything. The roaring dragon held for a heartbeat, forming a brief stalemate with the bald Demon King's fist. Saitama blinked, surprised to see the blood-colored dragon, already cracked, still pushing back. "It took my punch and didn't break?" A small arc of excitement crept to his mouth. "King, you really surprised me." Saitama's expression sharpened. He slowly raised his left hand, the one he hadn't used, and added to the assault. "Since that's the case, I'll get a bit more serious." Third punch, fourth punch, fifth punch. His left hand struck twice in rapid succession, afterimages of the red glove streaking through space. The power of 3 normal punches stacked together, and the dragon that had held firm for an instant shattered. Scarlet qi sprayed across the sky, scattering into motes that dissipated on the wind. Chen Xiao was hurled backward, swallowed by the yellow sands. For a moment, he vanished from sight. Saitama scanned the dust, frowning. Then Chen Xiao walked out of the smoke, calm. His clothes were in tatters, but to casual eyes there were almost no wounds. "Saitama, what did you think of that move of mine?" Chen Xiao asked, walking toward him like they'd just finished sparring. Saitama nodded, approval plain on his face. "Not bad. Among all the opponents I've fought, King, you count as one of the strongest. That red dragon was not only super cool when it charged, it was also damn durable. I couldn't break it with one punch, I had to add 2 more. Hearing Saitama's easy praise, a flash of desolation crossed Chen Xiao's chest. As a transmigrator armed with a golden finger system, he shouldn't be so impressed by comparison, But there it was. He had poured everything he had into that move, used the trump cards from his transmigration, and the best reaction he got was very cool. And he wasn't really unscathed. His regeneration had masked the truth. After taking 3 normal punches, the blood chi dragon had gone, but Chen Xiao's body had been pulverized, bones splintered like crumbs on a cracker, organs mashed into pulp. If he hadn't fought with everything to protect his head and avoid losing consciousness, those punches would have killed him. The system's high-grade gift, super speed regeneration, had stitched him back in 2 seconds, but the damage had been real. Seeing Chen Xiao standing undamaged, Saitama's battle fire ignited. He balled his fists and grinned. "King, look, you just took 3 normal punches and you're fine. How about we switch to serious punches for the next 5? The bald Demon King had his blood up. Maybe the hot-blooded thrill he'd been longing for would finally arrive. Chen Xiao's face twitched. He was almost certain that taking a serious punch head-on would turn him into nothing but a blood mist, with no chance to regenerate in time. Even the above-dragon-level Boros in the original story never took a serious punch cleanly. He exploded after consecutive normal punches. A serious punch would have likely reduced him to dust. "Let's not," Chen Xiao said, shaking his head. "This is just a casual spar. No need to fight that seriously. Stick to normal punches." Saitama's disappointment flashed, then faded. He recovered his enthusiasm. Only 5 punches remained. If he could beat King within 5 normal punches, all the subsequent fighting games would be his. 46. 8 gates formation. Gate of Death. Open. Chen Xiao froze for a moment as a thought struck him. Opening the 8 gates death gate was effectively a death sentence. It granted tremendous power at the cost of one's life. Once the death gate was opened, it would continuously burn one's chi and blood, damaging the body until it finally burned out. System, can super speed regeneration treat the negative effects caused by the death gate? Chen Xiao asked silently. The system answered immediately, its cold prompt ringing in his mind. Super speed regeneration can repair damage caused by the death gate, but the death gate itself consumes your life force. Opening it for too long will cause irreversible harm. Currently, you can open the death gate for a maximum of 10 minutes. Reminder, after opening the death gate, your chi and blood will be continuously consumed. Regardless of how long you open it, after closing the death gate, you will fall into a weakened state for 30 minutes. 30 minutes of weakness? Chen Xiao's eyes widened. He hadn't expected the penalty to be so light. Even more surprisingly, the 8 gates the system provided could be opened and closed at will. In short, he had access to a 10-minute super burst form, followed by a 30-minute weakness. It was absurdly cost-effective. With almost no hesitation, the ocean of chi and blood within him rushed toward the final acupoints. 8 gates, death gate, open. Blood-red vapor flickered like flames. His blonde hair took on a crimson cast, and red patterns crept up across his skin. Chen Xiao felt his aura spike, far stronger than when he'd opened the Gate of Shock before. Could this level contend with the Bald Demon King's normal mode? He took a steadying breath, lowered his center of gravity, and took a charging stance. Saitama, raising an eyebrow, couldn't help but comment, "King, how many new forms do you keep getting? You keep getting cooler." Chen Xiao didn't answer. He stared at his hands, where chi and blood burned like coals. His focus narrowed. Strength unlike any he'd felt before surged through him, yet he knew this state wouldn't last long. He clenched his fists and moved. As if on cue, both fighters vanished in an instant. At the 100-meter-deep crater from their previous clash, 2 streaks of light, one red, one yellow, met and collided. Violent energy fanned out from the impact, forming a mushroom cloud shockwave that stretched for kilometers and could be seen even from a city 1,000 miles away. The Hero Association's satellites immediately lost signal. Mortals lacked the qualification to continue observing what followed. Genos, 20 kilometers away, felt his mechanical parts begin to strain and click. With no choice but to retreat, he pulled back farther. This was the power of Master King and Saitama, God's achievements. He felt a fierce relief that both of them stood on humanity's side. Otherwise, humanity might have been erased. At the center of the abyss, the landscape had been utterly transformed. Sand-filled air collapsed into the crater like water being pumped out, Surrounding desert peaks were flattened by the shockwaves of their blows. Saitama's eyes flashed with excitement as he watched Chen Xiao lock fists with him. This was the first opponent he'd found who could spar with him. "Don't disappoint me, King." Chen Xiao poured the burning qi and blood into his fist and met Saitama's blow, but the stalemate lasted only a breath. He could feel his strength beginning to break. Within 5 seconds, he'd be completely overpowered. Even with the death gate open, Saitama's normal punch left large cracks running through the bones of Chen Xiao's arm. A red light flashed in his eyes. He retracted his fist. Super speed regeneration had already begun to mend the fractures. Evening Elephant. In less than a second, thousands of punches flew in succession. The intersecting air cannons left white streaks across the sky, fanning out nearly 100 kilometers. People in the cities looked up in wonder as the blue sky filled with dense white trails, compressed gas streaming along their centers. Saitama didn't bother to dodge. He simply absorbed Chen Xiao's onslaught with that impossibly resilient body of his. His yellow jumpsuit showed holes, and his white cape was half torn. Saitama's mouth twitched. "King, you ruined my clothes. Those were custom-made hero suits. I'll repay you 10 times the price later. Come on, Saitama." Chen Xiao's voice drifted through the after-image-torn air. Both fighters blurred into after-images and vanished into the void realm. Even Genos' mechanical eyes could barely track a few faint traces before they were gone. Boom after boom shook the terrain. Mountain peaks were leveled, the 100-meter ground beneath their feet ripped into massive new craters. Every collision left behind vast hollows, and the surrounding space itself began to warp from the continual impacts. Riding happily, brothers. Give some encouraging shouts. All that's left is fighting. Both of them were all in now. The earlier agreement to only throw 10 punches had vanished from both of their minds. Nothing remained but a raw, thrilling battle. Chen Xiao unleashed several rapid punches in succession. Each strike carried violent air cannons that grazed Saitama's shiny bald head, tearing the air so fiercely it seemed to leave a vacuum in its wake. Saitama's eyes narrowed. Seizing the opening, he threw a decisive punch that landed squarely on Chen Xiao's abdomen. Ugh! Chen Xiao's gut collapsed inward. His whole body shot backward on the force of the blow. He planted his feet and ground up a trench more than 1,000 meters long before barely managing to halt his slide. "That actually hurts, you bastard." That last punch had come close to rupturing every organ inside him, but Chen Xiao's super speed regeneration was absurdly broken. Even if his insides were smashed to pieces, they healed in an instant. He wiped blood from the corner of his mouth. Crimson steam flared across his body as he blurred into a red streak and rushed forward again at high speed. Saitama hadn't felt this alive in a long time. A smile spread across his face, brighter than when he played video games, and for the first time in a while, his usually blank eyes had a spark. Except for the restriction on using his serious punch, he was almost unfettered in this fight, and the 10-punch agreement had long since been forgotten. He had rarely met an opponent who could actually make him fight. How could he not be thrilled? It was like being a solitary titan sitting on a mountain peak, watching everyone else at the mountain's base, suffused with the loneliness of the summit. Then someone made a breakthrough from the foothills and climbed partway up to meet him. That one arrival turned the loneliness into something like exhilaration. Maybe this is the fight I've been waiting for. With a blur, Chen Xiao reappeared right in front of Saitama. His fist, wreathed in blood-red steam and tearing the air around it, smashed toward that polished bald head. Saitama turned, driving power through his waist into his left fist, then met Chen Xiao's wrist with a brutal strike. There was a sharp crack as bone broke. Chen Xiao's wrist twisted at an unnatural angle, pale bone piercing the skin. A flash of green light, and the broken wrist knit itself back together in an instant, looking as though it had never been injured. Chen Xiao seized the brief opening in Saitama's defense, pouring all his qi and blood into his right fist and smashing it into Saitama's chest. The impact detonated through both bodies, shattering the ground beneath them and sending plumes of dirt and debris skyward. Even after landing a direct hit, Chen Xiao couldn't laugh. This guy's defense was absurdly tough. As the attacker, Chen Xiao felt it most keenly. None of his blows had left a mark on Saitama's skin. He might as well have been punching an impenetrable super alloy plate, one that not only didn't dent but retaliated, tearing at him until skin split and flesh was shredded. The image was painfully clear. They exchanged a look and vanished from where they stood. Deafening sonic booms tore through the air as their collision produced violent energy fluctuations at the point of impact. Invisible shockwaves swept the surroundings and ripped the exposed ground apart again, forming another abyss hundreds of meters across. What had once been a vast, open desert had been pulverized by their fight. From on high, the plain was pocked with hundreds of massive black craters, and the earth that remained was slabbed with deep fissures. An eerie, shattered landscape. Far away, Genos, 50 kilometers off, felt the ground tremble violently and finally couldn't hold himself back. "Isn't your power a bit too strong?" he muttered. Even at that distance, with his mechanical eyes in telescope mode, Genos couldn't make out any clear details. The tremors alone betrayed the scale. Z-City, District. A young man in black, wide-leg pants and a red shirt, his hair styled like a delinquent's, strolled down the street with a shiny baseball bat swinging easily in his hand. Don't be fooled by the tough guy look. He was one of the 17 S-Class heroes, rank 15, metal bat. He was on his way to his younger sister's piano recital, and the thought of her performing under the spotlight made him grin. "Hey, my sister's the best." As the consummate siscon, Metal Bat treated his sister like everything. If anything happened to her, he would lose control. So when the ground under his feet began to rumble, buildings and paving vibrating, he froze. Pedestrians gasped and clutched at walls and lampposts. What's going on? An earthquake? But the alerts didn't say anything. You still trust those warnings? Earthquakes happen. It'll stop soon enough. That's true, but with a tremor this big, I might as well take the day off and go home. While most citizens were puzzled and mildly amused, Metal Bat was already sweating bullets. He stared toward the outskirts of the city, beads of sweat running down his forehead. Hey, what kind of energy aura is that? Who's fighting you bastards? Compared to ordinary people, Metal Bat's energy perception, like that of any S-Class hero, was far more acute. Where others only felt an odd quake, he could sense a massive, terrifying pressure rolling through the region, something no one could realistically stand against. P.S. This book is about to have its first performance. Dear readers, please leave a written review. The update speed won't be slow. 48. This guy is a pure Superman. On a high peak in the semi-suburbs of Z-City stood an elegantly appointed dojo. It looked desolate from a distance, but could not hide the aura of a martial arts sanctuary. In the main hall, an elderly man with silver hair and a still robust frame sat quietly on the floor. Beside him, a lanky youth with long yellow hair moved about, serving tea and doing the chores. The two were Master Bang and his lone current disciple, the untalented Chiranko. Bang sat waiting. There was an hour left until the time he had agreed upon with Saitama. He only hoped the man would keep the appointment. He lifted his teacup with calm composure, preparing to savor the fragrance of the fresh brew. The next instant, boom, 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 an invisible shockwave carrying savage energy swept over the mountain. The earth trembled and the great dojo began to sway. Karanko, balancing the teapot, lost his footing. The pot slipped and boiling tea scattered across the floor. What was that? An earthquake? Chiranko blurted. Bangu was already trembling from head to toe, his old eyes fixed on the distant suburbs, his soul nearly leaving his body. What a terrifying force. This was the aftermath of a battle. Martial arts, the years of training and technique he had taught and mastered, felt utterly powerless in the face of this devastation. As a grandmaster, he had a clear assessment of his own limits. If he had been in a fight at this level, he would likely have been annihilated in an instant. Still, he was consumed by curiosity. How strong must someone be to fight with such intensity? A tall figure with long golden hair flashed through his mind, and his aged body trembled. Could the fighter facing King be a legendary divine rank threat? 10,000 meters above the earth, Saitama was having a blast. He seemed to forget he couldn't fly. Somehow he was suspended in the air, launching wild bombardments. Scorching chi steamed across their skins. Chen Xiao shouted, and a sky full of fist shadows fell like crimson meteors. Each punch sent ripples through space. Saitama's gaze flicked constantly. He caught Chen Xiao's blows every time encountered. When their fists met, Saitama's gloved hand remained intact, while Chen Xiao's was twisted and shattered. Chen Xiao ignored the injury and raised his other fist to strike again. Saitama narrowed his eyes and threw a punch pushed to the limit of a normal punch, obliterating Chen Xiao's right hand, blowing it into a mess of flesh and bone. While the two were trading those right-arm gambles, Chen Xiao's broken left fist had already regrown, and he plunged back into the cycle. Whistling sonic booms kept ringing around them as they danced through the thin air 10,000 meters up. Every exchange whipped up boundless shockwaves. Above S-City, a vast dark cloud massed. The gray layers rolled and flickering flashes skittered within. The weather forecast had warned of storms. Torrential rain brewed high in the sky. In the next instant, a crimson blur flew back like a cannonball and slammed into the clouds, a red meteor. A streak of yellow light followed and plunged just as fiercely into the mass. Inside that thick cloud, Chen Xiao tumbled, trying to reduce the impact. A smear of blood leaked from the corner of his mouth, but the burning qi quickly evaporated it. He felt his organs turned over. It hurt like hell. Moments earlier, he had been caught by Saitama and struck by 3 consecutive normal punches. If he hadn't switched to his Deathgate state, which greatly boosted his vitality, those 3 blows would have turned him into a blood mist. As his thoughts raced, the rolling cloud in front of him suddenly split. The bald man in the tattered yellow bodysuit descended, his fist growing monstrous as it came. Panic surged through Chen Xiao. This punch was aimed at his head. The bald man clearly treated him as an opponent of nearly equal level, and apparently thought he could survive a direct hit. To Chen Xiao, though, it was an attempt to kill. After all, his super-speed regeneration only worked while he was conscious. If his head were blown off, recovery would be impossible. He crossed his arms and forced himself to block Saitama's blow. Bones in both arms snapped with a crisp crack, but he held. Just as he prepared to counter, Saitama raised his other hand and struck again. A shockwave of titanic force burst through the clouds, tearing them apart. The storm evaporated in an instant and the sky cleared, not a cloud remaining. The wind hissed in their ears. Chen Xiao stared in disbelief at the arms that had been blasted into a bloody mist. His eyelids twitched. How had this guy's power increased again? He was certain Saitama had not used a serious punch. He'd been fighting at the upper limit of a normal punch the whole time. That meant Saitama kept getting stronger as the fight went on. Things were getting harder by the second. At the start, he had barely been able to match him. Now a single blow could shatter his bones and muscles. It had taken less than 5 minutes. In that moment, he understood why people called him One Punch Man. Whether it would actually be ended in a single punch, Chen Xiao didn't know, but this man was, without doubt, a pure superhuman. Chapter 49, a colossal dragon of blood and qi that blots out the sky. This battle raged until the world itself seemed to go dark. Their power was simply too great. To avoid destroying the surface, they'd already climbed to an altitude of 10,000 meters, nearly at the edge of the atmosphere. Watching Saitama floating effortlessly in the air, Chen Xiao finally lost his composure. "Buddy, did you forget you can't fly?" As it turned out, there was nothing Saitama couldn't do, only things he hadn't imagined. He'd always believed humans couldn't fly, and so he couldn't. Once he let go of that assumption, inexplicably he could. They clashed again. After less than a second of stalemate, Saitama's fist surged forward with overwhelming force, tearing Chen Xiao's entire right arm into a mist of blood. The impact spun Chen Xiao uncontrollably through the sky. Even using his psychic power to slow his fall, he couldn't stop immediately. A green light flickered, and the arm that had exploded into a spray of blood began forming new skin and flesh at a visible speed, pale bone knitting instantly. Damn, he's really gotten stronger. Maybe even Saitama hadn't noticed how fast he was improving. If ordinary Saitama increased his combat power 1% per day, in a fight it rose by 1% per second, accelerating as the battle went on. Once the bald Demon King really got serious, his growth rate became terrifying. He could be stronger than his previous self every second. Now, although he wasn't in a truly enraged state because he couldn't use the serious punch, his spirit was already fired up. Chen Xiao hadn't even finished stabilizing when Saitama appeared in front of him in a flash, his fist expanding in Chen Xiao's vision. A lethal aura flared in his mind. Chen Xiao didn't hesitate. He shot away at full speed, a streak of light disappearing nearly 1,000 miles in an instant. The punch missed, but its wind swept forward and shredded the clouds for half the planet. From space, you could have seen the cloud cover neatly split into two, as if parted down the center. "Don't run, King!" Saitama shouted and pursued at top speed. Serious series. Serious chase. The rules only forbade him from using the serious punch. The other serious techniques were fair game. The difference between the normal and serious series was simply how much force he put into an action. A normal table flip used a little force. A serious table flip used more. Chen Xiao was panting as he fled. In the 6 furious minutes of combat he just endured, he'd regenerated hundreds, even thousands of times, and his stamina had been drained to the limit. That, however, was exactly his strategy. Once he finally broke away from the continuous exchange, his stamina began to recover rapidly, like a game character regaining endurance out of combat. In a blink, the energy he'd burned was more than half replenished. A chill struck his mind. The rush of fist wind slammed his eardrums, followed by a deafening sonic boom. Chen Xiao's pupils pinched down to pinpricks. He didn't hesitate. He unleashed dozens of concussive strikes toward the sound. Evening Elephant. Dozens of air cannons sheared through the sky, white streaks tearing open space, distorting the heavens and shuddering the world. The force of each blast could have pulverized a dragon-level monster. But a red-gloved fist punched straight through the combined volleys and buried itself in Chen Xiao's chest. Boom, boom, like a meteor in free fall, Chen Xiao smashed into a forest. The impact drove a shockwave through the ground, vaporizing the surface for kilometers around. Trees, chunks of earth and stone, everything was uprooted. The forest was destroyed in a single blow. Chen Xiao lay in the center of the crater, dazed, pale green psychic power swirling around him to block the flying dust. He looked down and saw a bloody hole through his chest. His torso had been almost completely blown apart, his arms barely held on by skin and tissue. Hiss! His attack has reached this level already? Chen Xiao gritted his teeth. The torn wound filled with new flesh at a visible pace and was restored almost instantly. If the bald demon king keeps getting stronger like this, there's no point in me dragging things out. I'll get one shot by a normal punch. He forced himself to his feet. Crimson chi burned across his skin, evaporating the blood from his brow. His heartbeat changed. Slow at first, then steady, like an engine revving up. Thump, 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 an invisible rhythm spreading through the air. The world trembled in time with the sound. Rubble and debris rose as if pulled by a magnet. The crimson chi stabbed into the sky and condensed in a streaking flash. Tail, body, head, scales, at high speed a form took shape. A dragon several thousand meters long rose like a mountain of red, roaring at the bald demon king above. Drawing on his Deathgate physique, Chen Xiao opened the Deathgate and stacked his strongest finishing move, Night Guy. If he aimed that kick at the surface, the planet itself might shatter. Night Guy! The blood chi dragon surged into the heavens, blotting out the sky and earth. P.S. Thanks to Yi00 for the Great God certification. Extra update tonight. If there are gifts and lots of requests for updates, the author will release more chapters. 50. Fly to the Moon. This was the strongest strike Chen Xiao had managed so far. The 1,000-meter-long blood chi dragon shot straight into the sky with an earth-shattering roar, its pulsing aura spreading across thousands of miles in an instant. Everyone within range felt an inexplicable panic, like prey sensing the presence of a top predator, fear at a genetic level. The sight of the giant dragon taking flight was visible from every nearby city. Hundreds of thousands of people watched it and had their worldview shaken. Facing the attack, Saitama's expression sharpened. The gale it generated whipped his tattered white cape noisily. He hovered in the air, adopting a box stance, fists clenched and arm muscles swelling, ready. This aura isn't bad. Even without going all out, Saitama could sense a sliver of real danger from Chen Xiao's move. It had been a long time since anything had put that feeling into him. Yet Chen Xiao had managed it now. The momentary sense of crisis faded as Saitama got serious, But the warning was enough to show how powerful Chen Xiao's strike was. To show proper respect, Saitama raised his fist and narrowed his eyes. Serious. He stopped mid-thought. King had forbidden him from using the Serious series offensively. Right, can't do that. Before he could decide otherwise, the roaring blood chi dragon was already surging up to meet him from below, carrying ocean-deep blood chi. At 10,000 meters up, they met head-on. Consecutive normal punches, nearly 100 normal punches stacked together, forming a crimson blur of fists that drove into the dragon with overwhelming force. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to freeze. Sound vanished, color drained to gray, and time paused. Then everything snapped back. A violent storm of energy erupted outward from their clash, expanding to a radius of 1,000 miles in the blink of an eye. At the center of that storm, Saitama's 100-plus normal punches struck the crimson blood chi dragon in unison and shattered it. Feels softer than last time. If the dragon had felt like a block of frozen tofu the last time, now it was like soft tofu, easily smashed apart. No sooner had that thought crossed his mind than Chen Xiao's foot met Saitama's abdomen. The 1,000-meter blood chi dragon had been a feint, a condensation of overflowing power. The real attack was the physical strike Chen Xiao had packed into his body. Chen Xiao's whole body was on the verge of breaking. He forced all that power inward, imprisoning it rather than releasing it, which created enormous internal pressure. Even with his terrifying strength, blood-colored cracks spidered across him. He could have exploded at any moment. Each time those crimson fissures appeared, his super-speed regeneration kicked in and resealed them. He was teetering on the edge of collapse. Sensing the hit and the force threatening to send him flying, Saitama reacted lightning fast. Dozens of normal punches slammed into Chen Xiao's body as he launched outward. The collision, the two of them trading blows, became a yellow streak of light rocketing toward outer space. In a flash, Saitama broke free of Earth's gravity in 0.1 seconds, though his posture was crooked. His jumpsuit was ripped open at the abdomen, exposing his six-pack. Clearly, Chen Xiao's sublimated night guy-esque strike had shredded the fabric, though it hadn't actually broken Saitama's flesh. The residual force, however, kept hurling Saitama into the void. Saitama concentrated and grabbed at the void on both sides, gripping the air with a superhuman hold, trying to make it tangible and use it to break. When he clenched, flames sparked on his hands from the friction. The air resistance took some of the impact, but only a little. The lack of oxygen grew oppressive as he climbed through the thinning atmosphere. He pinched his nose reflexively. A few dozen seconds later, he smashed onto the cratered surface of the moon. He rolled, then slowly dragged himself out of the huge depression he'd created, looking around with an amused curiosity. It was dead silent. The moon has no air to carry sound. All Saitama could hear was his own heartbeat and the rush of blood in his veins. So I got hit all the way to the moon. That king is something else. He floated in the moon's low gravity, stretched, and let out a big yawn, a satisfied look passing over his face. It had been a while since he'd enjoyed a fight like that. Ever since he'd gone bald, his strength had felt capped at peak, and most opponents fell with one hit. This fight with Chen Xiao, despite not being allowed to use a serious punch, had been fun. All right, time to go back to Earth. Saitama picked up a nearby moon rock, tossed it a couple of times to gauge the gravity, then planted his feet. His leg muscles tensed and unleashed unparalleled power. Boom, boom. Silent roars, because there's no air to carry sound, accompanied spiderweb cracks that spread across the lunar surface as he pushed off for the return. Working on it, writing 2 more chapters in a row, they'll be out soon. If you enjoyed this, please click Remind to update and send a free little gift. With the force behind his feet, half of the moon's surface shattered in an instant. Debris filled the void and drifted through space. Saitama fixed his course back the way he'd come, his body trailing a fiery corona as he fell like a meteor, plunging through the atmosphere. Oh, right. He remembered at the last second and yanked off his torn white cape, clutching it to his chest as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Besides his yellow jumpsuit, that cape was the most expensive piece of his gear. Hero Association property, of course. Damn it, has the satellite feed still not calibrated? Sitch barked at staff who were frantically adjusting the feed. During the fight between Chen Xiao and Saitama, the association had detected terrifying energy fluctuations, suspected god-level disaster levels, but they couldn't get any clear footage. Every satellite angle showed only static and blur. The aftershocks of the battle were interfering with signals. Sitch was on edge. People already assumed King was the one involved, the association's ace, and no one had expected that the newly promoted S-Class hero, the Bald Cape hero, could be this powerful. The aftershocks alone warranted a god-level disaster classification. He didn't know why the two of them had started fighting, but he wanted clear visual data as soon as possible. Powerhouses like that often ignored the safety of others when they were having fun. Sitch didn't want a situation spiraling out of control. Then the alarm light stopped flashing red. The wailing siren that had filled the control room cut out abruptly. "Is it over?" "Ready," one staffer cried, as the satellite feed finally locked in. "The satellite's back. It looks like the fight between Mr. King and Mr. Saitama has ended." Sitch hurried to the main screen. Massive abyssal craters scarred the landscape. Confusion flickered across his face. Weren't they fighting in a desert before? Did the battlefield move? No. The staff member was sweating, voice shaking as he pointed to the satellite coordinates. "It's still the same desert, but the battle leveled the whole place, razed it to the ground. It's a basin now." Sitch pressed his temples, took several deep breaths, and kept repeating to himself that these people couldn't be measured by ordinary standards, no point being shocked. And Mr. King and the Bald, Mr. Saitama? Any sign of them? He almost said Saitama's codename, then caught himself. Saitama hated that nickname. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at one another awkwardly. Sitch felt a bad premonition, sighed, and forced himself to be ready for anything. A relatively young staffer was nudged forward by several seniors and cleared his throat. "We haven't found Mr. King, but we have found Mr. Saitama." "Where?" "On the moon. He's falling back through the atmosphere right now. He must have jumped back. There's a huge crater on the lunar surface." Sitch stared at the screen. "What the hell?" Midair, amid a sky full of red-hot fragments, Chen Xiao hovered in the void realm, utterly spent. A moment before, he'd taken dozens of normal punches from Saitama straight on. His body had been torn to pieces. If not for his prodigious life force and regeneration keeping him conscious with half a head remaining, he would have died. The death gate had closed, leaving him weakened for 30 minutes. He didn't have the strength to lift a finger. Of course, no strength was relative. If he wanted to, he could still level a dragon-class monster with a single blow. Chen Xiao laughed bitterly to himself. He'd been laughably arrogant after his transmigration had gone so smoothly. Coming to spar with the Bald Demon King had been foolish. He hadn't once managed to break through Saitama's defenses. It had felt like tickling the other man the whole time. Even the night guy at the end, used while he was in a double Deathgate state, hadn't dented Saitama's defense. "All right, you win. I yield," he thought. A chime sounded in his head. Ding! Detected. Chen Xiao fought fiercely with the Bald Demon King Saitama for over 5 minutes and survived. Obtained 5,000 points. 5,000 points. Not bad. Chen Xiao allocated them without thinking, 3,000 to strength, 2,000 to speed. What he needed most right now was more offensive power. Defense wasn't a concern. His regenerative ability made that almost irrelevant. P.S. Chapter 2 did not pass the review and needs to be revised. 52. He's practically a master of combat thinking. Warmth flooded Chen Xiao's body in waves, steadily strengthening him. He had finally begun to piece together some of the system's rules. If only that thing had come with a manual. The system's rewards were varied. Some came from making choices, others from achieving specific feats, and each one was lavish. It never tossed out mediocre skills or cheaped out experience cards. After adjusting to his current weakened state, Chen Xiao shut off his psychic power and fell toward the ground. At the last second before impact, he reactivated it and touched down smoothly. "This is called bungee jumping, baby," he muttered. "Teacher King!" An anxious voice sounded. Chen Xiao turned to see Genos barreling over. As soon as the previous fight had ended, Genos had rushed in, eager to help however he could. Post-battle supplies, triage, whatever. His mechanical eyes scanned Chen Xiao, and seeing no wounds, he finally relaxed a little. Teacher King, after such an intense battle, you must be thirsty. Please have some water. Genos produced a bottle of mineral water from who knew where and offered it with the solemnity of someone handing over an important document. Chen Xiao felt awkward under that level of seriousness. He took the bottle, popped the cap, and drank in big gulps. He was indeed thirsty. If he counted the damage accurately, he'd lost at least hundreds of liters of blood in that fight. Dehydration was guaranteed. He took a few more swallows, then heard the frantic rasp of a pen on paper and felt a bad premonition. Genos had gone into full note-taking mode again. The pen blurred across his pages as he scribbled massive amounts of text. What is he writing this time? Chen Xiao wondered. Saitama wouldn't need to aim precisely to get back onto his spaceship in the original story, because the ship was huge, large enough to be a speck on the moon. Here, though, the landing target was much smaller. Saitama would probably have to aim, and there was a real chance he'd miss. Chen Xiao leaned closer to Genos' notes and froze when he read them. After experiencing a great battle, Teacher King immediately began to replenish fluids, indicating hydration is crucial to the outcome of a battle. Although as a cyborg drinking water doesn't affect me much, this demonstrates the importance of logistics. Teacher King's combat mindset is profound. Additionally, removing one's shirt during future battles is worth considering. Teacher King fought unclothed. Does clothing significantly affect combat power? Whether humans need to wear clothes is a topic for further research. Chen Xiao's face went cold. He looked down and realized he wasn't wearing any clothes. It made sense. He'd been blown apart hundreds of times in the fight. It would have been a miracle if his clothes survived. But out here in the wilderness, where would he find replacements? He had no choice. He circulated blood chi and formed a scarlet mimetic battle armor over his skin to cover his nakedness. In that fight, he discovered another use for blood chi. If it could condense into a 1,000-meter blood chi dragon to release Night Guy, it could just as easily be condensed into other forms. Even so, something felt off. After the battle, it was as if something inside him had shifted. To investigate, he opened his data panel for the first time in a while. Abilities: Emperor Engine, Super Speed Regeneration, Fine Control, Energy Control. Speed, 14,000. Stamina, 20,000. Spirit. Note, the standard for entering Dragon level is for all attributes to reach 1,000. He stared at the numbers. Why are all my attributes 1,000 points higher? Even counting every reward the system had already given him, every stat was 1,000 points above what it should be. A thought landed. This fight had been life or death, pushed him to the brink countless times. He had likely shattered a layer of his inner barrier. That would explain the sudden surge. Do not underestimate a 1,000-point increase across the board. According to the system, a newly attained dragon-level monster had only 1,000 in each stat. Before Chen Xiao could say anything to Genos, the sky whistled. A flaming meteor streaked down and slammed into the ground a few kilometers away. The earth trembled. A shockwave threw up sand and dust and even cracked the ground beneath their feet. What's happening? Are there more enemies? Teacher King, rest. Leave the enemy to me. Genos snapped to attention, palm cannon trained on the impact site, his energy core glowing bright blue as he prepared to fight. Chen Xiao patted his shoulder, telling him to calm down and take a step back. It's fine. Someone bald just came back from outer space. At the words bald, Genos immediately understood who had landed. He lowered his cannon, drew his pen and paper again, and began recording in a frenzy. Teacher King refers to Mr. Saitama as Bald Head, a codename based on physical appearance. This demonstrates Teacher King's sharp, eagle-like perception. It reminds us that in battle, we must observe our opponent carefully to find weaknesses and win. Teacher King truly is a master of combat thinking. 53. The Hero Association's higher-ups, get out of here! From the huge crater, a yellow figure shot out of the billowing dust and smoke. Hiss! Where's King? Did I land in the wrong spot? Saitama brushed the dust off his suit and looked around in mild confusion. A red streak of light arrived and Genos stood before him. When Saitama saw King, he suddenly broke into a grin. Pretty impressive, King. You took my consecutive normal punches and don't look like you got hurt at all. You're really strong." King's mouth twitched. He could still see the memory of his own body having exploded into a spray of blood. His skull half shattered. He hadn't been uninjured. He forced a smile and extended his hand in a handshake. "So did you have fun fighting this time?" he asked. Saitama clasped the offered hand tightly, sealing the end of the fight. "Of course. It's the first time someone's lasted that long against me. Even using only the normal series, I accept it. By the way, why no serious series? You took my consecutive normal punches without getting hurt. In Saitama's logic, anyone who could withstand a normal punch should be ready for consecutive normal punches. Anyone who could survive those should be able to take a serious punch. If you didn't die from a serious punch, the next step would be the serious series. Serious omnidirectional punch." King didn't know how to answer. He couldn't exactly tell Saitama that if he really took a serious punch, he'd instantly be blown apart. This wasn't false modesty. King had enough self-awareness to know that even if he activated his strongest mode, the Death Gate, a serious punch might leave nothing but dust. Saitama's expression suddenly shifted to something awkward. King's lips curved into an arc as he guessed what the bald man meant. "Let's make one thing clear first," King said calmly. "You threw hundreds of punches and still couldn't beat me, so no new fighting games for you this month." Saitama, still riding the afterglow of battle mode, deflated instantly like a popped balloon. "Fine," he said, disappointed. Even Saitama hadn't expected King to be that tough. Hundreds of normal punches weren't enough. Saitama figured an opponent of King's caliber couldn't be handled by normal punches anymore. He'd have to get serious. King changed the subject at once, and Saitama perked up again, eager to hear what came next. A sly glint flashed in King's eyes. "We still have plenty of time before we head to Old Man Bang's dojo. If you can beat me at any game from now on, I'll pay for both your fighting game and 18 expenses next month." Saitama's eyes lit up. He nearly jumped 3 feet in the air, instantly all seriousness. "Yes! Watch me crush you! I've learned a bunch of new combos recently. I'll dominate the whole gaming world." Gino stood to the side, looking thoughtful. He didn't interrupt King and Saitama's lively banter. He silently followed them while quietly eavesdropping the whole time. Halfway through listening, he seemed to have an epiphany, pulled out a pen and paper, and began furiously taking notes. Master King and Mr. Saitama have started talking about gaming. Although it appears to be entertainment, their gaming actually trains reaction speed and combat thinking through a virtual medium. While controlling characters, they probe the ultimate mysteries of martial arts. As expected of Master King and Mr. Saitama, this is the humble mentality of the world's peak powerhouses. King glanced at Gino's scribbling away and couldn't help but smile. How did that guy write such long, complicated sentences all day? Under the scorching sun, the 3 shadows grew long as they continued on toward Old Man Bang's dojo. Hero Association, conference room. Sitch sat quietly in a corner, watching the executives argue heatedly in front of him and feeling helpless. A room full of people who only knew how to talk in circles, completely useless when it came to anything practical. The purpose of this meeting was to decide whether S-Class Rank 17 Sama should be promoted. Saitama's recent actions had pushed the Hero Association to pay attention to the powerhouse recommended by Zero, King. They were beginning to suspect that this unremarkable bald man might be a reclusive top-tier fighter. "I heard S-Class Rank 17, the Bald Cape Hero, not only defeated 4 Tatsumaki, but can even go toe-to-toe with Zero King. Impressive. Yeah, and he also wiped out the Evolution House with King, took care of that unstable Kino's problem. This newly promoted S-Class hero could be one of the association's biggest assets. Why not raise his rank?" "Agreed. Me too. I agree as well." At last, amid rounds of agreement, the meeting about Saitama's rank promotion ended. The executives filed out one by one. Sitch sighed, worried about the future of the association with such parasitic higher-ups. Something that could have been settled in a few sentences had eaten up 2 hours. Were they just babbling the whole time? He scratched at his graying hair, tucked his briefcase under his arm, and left the room. Could he really be the only one who actually did anything among the association executives? Hero Association higher-ups just get lost. P.S. I've already posted 3 updates today, but it still doesn't feel like enough. Maybe there'll be another chapter later. Send some free gifts and reminders. Let's go. They were all bald at Saitama's house. Ora, 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 ora! The muscular man on the screen bellowed, fists battering relentlessly at the little lowly opposite him. But the little lowly only raised her arms, slipping and weaving with effortless precision to block or evade every blow. Damn it! Why can't I hit you? Are you cheating? Outside the screen, Saitama, the bald demon king who could flatten almost anything with a single punch in reality, had turned bright red. Veins bulged on his shiny head, his eyes were wide, and his fingers flew over the controller. Beside him, Chen Xiao, who controlled the little lowly, lounged completely relaxed. For the whole match, he'd kept just one finger on the controller, flicking between dodge and block. They'd set the rounds to 60 seconds. When time ran out, the fighter with less health lost. Before they started, Chen Xiao had made a promise. He would do nothing for the first 50 seconds and only try in the final 10. When Saitama heard that rule, he was ecstatic. If I chip away some health early and then spend the last 10 seconds dodging, he'd crowed, you're guaranteed to lose. As the match went on, though, Saitama began to feel uneasy. Why can't I land a hit? The game had a block gauge. Blocking too many times depleted it and left you open. What Saitama hadn't known was the hidden mechanic. If you blocked at the exact moment an attack would hit, it counted as a perfect block and didn't use the block gauge. Chen Xiao timed every block perfectly, never draining his guard. No matter what Saitama threw at him, he couldn't break through. Damn it! Take my ultimate! With only a few seconds left before the final 10-second window, and Chen's health still untouched, Saitama panicked. He unleashed the move he'd been hoarding for over 40 seconds. On screen, the muscular man lunged, a flaming fist swinging with crushing force. Saitama grinned. This ultimate was unblockable and took off half the opponent's health if it connected. If it landed, there would be no comeback in the last 10 seconds. I'm finally going to win. Chen Xiao, however, gave a faint, eerie smile. The little lowly simply tapped dodge, rolled twice across the ground, and avoided the flaming punch entirely. Saitama froze, fingers slack on the controller. It's the last 10 seconds. My turn to move, Chen Xiao said, casually placing both hands on the pad. Saitama scrambled backward in panic, but it was too late. The little lowly kicked twice with light strikes, stunning Saitama's character, then closed with 3 heavy punches and 2 light punches, swept the legs, and finished with her own ultimate, an unbroken combo that chewed through the final 10 seconds. The countdown hit the last second as the KO landed. KO! The controller clattered to the floor. Saitama collapsed, eyes vacant on the ceiling, drained. He hadn't expected to lose, especially not under rules so skewed in his favor. This wasn't the first time. It was his 50th loss. Gino sat nearby, dutifully recording the whole match. His golden mechanical eyes glowed with methodical focus. During the match, Master King and Mr. Saitama appeared to be just playing a game, but in reality they had been locked in battle for 50 rounds within the virtual fight. Master King's combat strength in the virtual fight is clearly superior, easily defeating Mr. Saitama. I'm done. This is ridiculous. I'd rather watch TV, Saitama sighed, giving up for the evening and reaching for the remote. He switched to the daily news and let the bland anchor chatter slowly ease his mood. The sting of repeated defeats began to wash out. Then the broadcast changed to the next item, and Saitama's pupils snapped wide. Wait, why is this guy bald too? The screen showed a wanted poster of a fierce hammer-shaped bald head on the left, while the anchor read the report on the right. Today, a gang calling themselves the Taoyuan Group has mobilized and gathered in front of the richest man's villa in Z City. The current disaster rank is Tiger. Citizens, please be advised. Members of the Taoyuan Group have the following characteristics. Citizens, please be vigilant and exercise caution. First characteristic, most members wear civilian tech combat suits that are black. A small number are yellow. Second characteristic, all members are bald heads. Saitama shot up from his recliner. Are you kidding me? P.S. These chapters are transitional. The combat excitement will return later. Don't worry. He could already imagine the headlines. If he let the Taoyuan Group keep running wild, one day he might stroll down the street and someone would point and accuse him of being one of them. I don't want that to happen. That decided it. Saitama sprang up from his bed in pajamas and, in an instant, changed into his hero suit. His white cape fluttered as he moved. For a moment, his simple, almost comical expression vanished. His face sharpened into an unexpectedly serious, earnest look. I'm heading out to uphold the dignity of the bald head. When the door closed behind him, Chen Xiao and Genos sat in stunned silence, both at a loss for words. Genos, however, straightened up and spoke with sudden seriousness. Master King, do you remember you said after our spar that you'd point out my flaws? Please, teach me. Chen Xiao scratched his head, trying to recall if he'd actually said that. He must have. He gave a resigned little sigh and began to explain what he thought would improve Genos' capabilities. As a cyborg, Genos needed structural upgrades, more modularity, more redundancy, better melee skills too. You should add detachable mechanisms at key joints so parts can be reassembled on the fly. If an arm gets severed in battle, you can reattach it immediately, Chen Xiao said. Also, put in a few secondary power cores. Relying on a single main core limits your ability to increase output. And finally, learn close quarters combat. Don't rely only on ranged firepower. You need the skill to fight when an enemy gets in your face. Technically, these were late-stage upgrades, but Chen Xiao mentioned them now anyway. Hearing the plan, Genos' mechanical eyes brightened like a circuit finally connected. So that's how it is. I never realized those improvements were possible. Thank you, Master King. I know how to get stronger now. I will leave at once. With a respectful bow, Genos dashed out the door and sped toward the doctors to begin the modifications. Chen Xiao watched him go, then rolled over and went back to his phone. The system hadn't issued any new tasks. The timeline was quiet. The fight from earlier had drained him more mentally than physically. Every reconstitution after being blown apart was fast, but the pain of broken bones and torn tendons had still been intense. He'd call today a holiday and rest. Deep beneath Z City, however, things were anything but peaceful. What should have been solid earth had been hollowed into a network of tunnels. These corridors weren't rough burrows, but neat passageways, tiled and lined with torches set into the walls every 10 meters. The torches were unlit, yet they marked the orderly layout of the tunnels. Terrifyingly, they were packed with monsters, dozens upon dozens, and nearly every one of them ranked at least tiger level. If someone on the surface knew, they wouldn't believe a huge monster lair had been entrenched directly under the city. At the central intersection of the tunnels lay a vast cavern, and in its center reared a creature of legend. Dark purple scales covered its massive body. Dozens of tails, or perhaps necks, sprang from its rear, each tipped with jagged fangs and gnashing teeth. Its shoulders were ringed with layers of gaping maws, and its face was an unsettling blend of dragon and serpent. It stood 100 meters tall, radiating an oppressive presence. Monster King Orochi, the ostensible leader of the Monster Association, rolled his scarlet eyes and turned his gaze toward an obese figure perched on a high ledge. His voice, low and chaotic, echoed through the cavern. "The two strong fighters have finished," Orochi rumbled. "Do we proceed with the plan?" From a shadowed recess came a sly, melodious voice. "Remain hidden. The time has not yet ripened. The Monster Association's strength hasn't reached its peak, and there is an additional unknown variable." The shadows parted. The speaker was a grotesque, fleshy creature, pink skin layered over an obese body, a single enormous pupil occupying most of its face, and its flesh covered in tiny, tentacle-like hands. It was the Monster Association's strategist, a dragon-level monster known as Great Eye. Great Eye lifted his ocular orb and narrowed it. Among his intelligence reports, one of the two combatants had already been listed, King. That was no surprise. King had long been flagged as one of the most dangerous threats. What truly unsettled him was the other fighter, the bald man. Recently promoted to human S-class, that bald head possessed power not inferior to King. Humans, it seemed, still harbored unexpected talents. The time for the association's emergence had not yet come. They had to bide their time and endure a while longer. Chen Xiao himself could not have guessed that his duel with the bald demon king would force the Monster Association's plans to be postponed. Chapter 56. How dare you stand me up? In the dim underground cavern, Muffled growls rolled and echoed like a fierce dog forever baying at the sky. Dozens of meters long, a behemoth lay sprawled across the floor, head thrown back as it howled. Its dragon-level monster presence filled the space with raw, untamed power. The creature looked like a dog, black fur, 6 crimson eyes unblinking as they stared into the ceiling. This was Rover, Monster Association, dragon-level executive. He had been sleeping until a sudden surge of energy jerked him awake, putting the entire beast on full alert. The tremor ignited his territorial instinct. The dignity of a dragon-level monster, a king of its domain, could not be violated. Even as the aftershocks from the battle began to fade, Rover kept his guard up, ready to fight at a moment's notice. Far above, across the silent void of space, where countless stars glimmered cold and distant, a large ship drifted toward a blue planet. Inside the control room, a peculiar alien finished a scan and hurriedly reported to his master. "Reporting, sir. The massive energy on Earth has vanished. The battle should be over." A giant humanoid behind the alien, blue tentacles swaying, nodded. "Understood. I'll inform Lord Boros at once." Jeruganshoop mopped an invisible bead of sweat from his brow, still shaken. Such terrifying power. Earth actually has someone who can stand toe-to-toe with Lord Boros. The prophecy was true. He pushed open the door, about to say more, when a resonant voice echoed through the empty hall. "No need to report. I've already sensed it." The figure on the throne rose, a light of exhilaration flaring in his single large eye. Excitement and hunger for battle shimmered across his features. He was blue-skinned, with long pink hair trailing nearly to the floor, clad in golden armor and a red cape. A single pupil dominated most of his face. Boros, dominator of the universe. 20 years earlier, he had come to Earth following the wizard's prophecy, seeking a worthy opponent. Years of rulership had cooled his fighting spirit. He wanted, above all, a grand fight to rekindle that passion. The energy burst he just sensed. The transmission from the epic clash between Chen Xiao and Saitama proved one thing beyond doubt. Whoever could send power that far was a contender, perhaps even a match for him. The air around Boros trembled with the power he emitted unconsciously, and he tightened his fists. At last, his long-awaited challenge might be found on Earth. Back on Earth, the two people Boros now coveted were together in a familiar scene. Chen Xiao sat sipping cola when the door opened, and he turned to see Saitama wander back in, dazed. His yellow battle suit was spotless. He clearly hadn't been in an actual fight. "You're back so soon? What did you do?" Chen Xiao asked. Saitama scratched the top of his head, trying to smooth his non-existent hair. Let me think. I broke up that Taoyuan group, and I also beat up a pervert in a black bodysuit. I think his name was Nick the Joint or something." Chen Xiao rolled his eyes and mentally corrected him. That was Speed O Sound Sonic. Then Saitama checked the time and suddenly sat bolt upright, snapping his fingers. "Oh no, I forgot! King, come on! An old man invited us to his dojo for Wagyu today." Chen Xiao blinked, then checked the clock. They were supposed to be there at 3. It was already 4:30. At the dojo, Charon huddled in a corner, sweat trickling down his forehead. "Who stood up Master Bang?" "Hurry, someone clean this up," he wanted to shout. Hours earlier, Master Bang had sat alone in the center of the hall with a cooling cup of tea at his side. Now, though his expression had gone back to its usual calm, veins stood out in the old man's wrinkled hands. "Where are they?" he seethed inwardly. An hour and a half had passed since the appointed time, and neither Saitama nor King had shown up. Bang let out a bitter chuckle, drained his tea, and slammed the cup down on the floor in anger. How dare they stand up this old man? Just as he was about to go fetch them himself, a familiar voice rang from outside the dojo's main doors. "Hello? Anyone home? Old Man Bang, I'm here. Is the Wagyu ready?" They actually came. All of Bang's resentment vanished in an instant. He smoothed his features, becoming the composed martial arts master everyone respected. "Charon, open the door." Charon hurried to comply, casting a quick, awed look at Bang's sudden change of expression. The master's ability to switch so fast, truly, that was the mark of a martial arts master. To be continued. I'm currently writing 3 to 4 chapters by hand. This old author is practically a model worker. 57. Hockey bald, you bastard. The moment the door opened, the first thing Saitama saw was Chiranko. A flicker of confusion crossed his face. "Huh? Old Man Bang. You're looking lively. Went and dyed your hair or something. Bang. Come on. I'm standing right here in the hall, striking a pose like some martial arts grandmaster, and you mistake Chiranko for me? What's that about? Chiranko froze for a beat, then hurriedly shook his head, face full of embarrassment. I'm not Master Bang. I'm Master Bang's personal disciple, his only student, Chiranko. Chen Xiao couldn't help but smile. He hadn't expected the Bald Demon King to open with something so blunt. He reached up and ruffled Saitama's head, motioning for him to look a little to the left. Saitama glanced over and finally saw Bang, who had been trying to look calm. A smile spread across Saitama's face. So you were hiding here, old man. Still got a mischievous streak in you. Bang. The Grandmaster air he'd been trying to maintain nearly broke. Bang was internally aghast. Saitama, what kind of wiring do you have? What do you mean I was hiding here? It's obvious you didn't see me. He cleared his throat and forced the dignified pose back into place. Welcome, both of you, to my dojo, he said, the kind smile fixed on his face. Karanko, serve tea to our distinguished guests. Yes, master. The three of them stepped into the dojo. Karanko rushed off to pour tea while Chen Xiao took his time looking around. The first thing he noticed was the size. The dojo sprawled over several thousand square meters, bright and spacious. But it had a flaw. It felt empty. There was almost no sign of everyday life. It was tidy, almost sterile, like a house without its people. Chen Xiao turned his attention to Bang. It was his first time meeting the S-Class Rank 3, Silver Fang, Master Bang, the martial arts grandmaster of this world. Watching Bang move, Chen Xiao understood why the man had such a reputation. Despite appearing frail, Bang's motions were effortless and flowing, like water carved into the soul itself, graceful and precise. Physically, Bang was weaker than Chen Xiao and Saitama, but his technique let him transcend raw strength. Bang, meanwhile, unobtrusively observed Chen Xiao and Saitama. There was nothing to note about Saitama. He seemed as blasé as ever. Saitama's awareness was like a joke to Bang. No matter how he probed, it was like shouting into the void, as if his senses were being swallowed by a black hole. Chen Xiao, though, Bang's eyes narrowed, the wrinkles in his aged cheeks deepening. So this is Zero, the one who defeated Tatsumaki, the S-Class Rank 6 king. To Bang, Chen Xiao's aura of chi and blood was bottomless. There was no telling how vast it was. If an ordinary person's chi were a torch, Chen Xiao was a blazing sun high in the sky, scorching everything around him. The more he looked, the more his admiration grew. No wonder this man had beaten Tatsumaki. He truly was a fearsome presence. They sat down. Bang and Chen Xiao kept sneaking glances at each other. Saitama watched them, puzzled. What are those two doing? A staring contest? After 10 seconds of silence, Saitama cut straight to the point, eyes bright with expectation. Old man, where's that leaven you mentioned? Hurry up and bring it out so we can 14. Bang's smile deepened, but there was a sly edge to it. He waved a hand as if to calm Saitama and said, Don't be impatient, Sait. Before you taste the leaven, how about we play a little game first? A game? Saitama's expression changed instantly. He snapped into the competitive mode he'd used when fighting Chen Xiao in video games. You said game, right? Chen Xiao, watching, noticed the malice in Bang's smile and guessed the old man had something up his sleeve. He could tell Saitama was fired up. He couldn't beat King at games, but surely he could beat an old man. Bring it on. Bang stroked his beard, still wearing that gentle, harmless smile. My game isn't the online kind you think of, Saitama. It's a special training exercise from our dojo that tests reflexes and adaptability. He produced a rectangular opaque box, turned his back so the others couldn't see inside, scooped a handful of small objects and dropped them in. Then he closed the box, shook it so its contents would settle evenly, and explained the rules in a measured voice. Inside are some red beans and nine. The red beans and nine have different textures, so they make different sounds when they roll. You can shake the box, and by listening to the sound they make, try to judge how many red beans there are. What do you say, Saitama and Mr. King? Both Chen Xiao and Saitama agreed to play. For Chen Xiao, still relatively relaxed after the transmigration, a little puzzle was no trouble. For Saitama, still smarting from his losses to Chen Xiao, it was the perfect chance to beat someone else. He took the box from Bang, held it to his ear, and began to listen and shake. Seconds slipped by. Saitama shook and listened with intense concentration, as if he were collecting every scrap of sound to analyze it. Bang watched with quiet interest. Only Chen Xiao, watching closely, could tell that Saitama hadn't actually figured anything out. He was just being driven by pure competitive determination. 58. Incompetent bald head time dragged on, and before he knew it, another 30 seconds had passed. "How is it, Saitama? Can you hear how many red beans are inside?" Bang asked with a smile. The simple question made Saitama freeze. Damn it, I can't hear anything at all. No matter how hard he tried, the sound of beans rolling inside the box all sounded the same. He couldn't tell any difference. Could he lose again? Lose to Old Man Bang? Saitama's expression went suddenly serious, his usually cartoonish face sharpening as his hearing rose to an almost superhuman level. Serious listening. Every tiny roll inside the box echoed in his head as he strained to distinguish them. Still, he couldn't hear any difference. "How is it, Saitama? Can you hear it now?" Bang asked again. Saitama sighed and handed the box back. "Sorry, I still can't hear anything." Bang's smile deepened into a kindly look, and he patted the bald Demon King on the shoulder. "It's fine. This is just a little training game. Only those who have mastered the knack can hear it correctly." He turned his attention to Chen Xiao, who had been watching from the side, and offered the box. "Mr. King, would you like to try?" Chen Xiao took the box and pretended to listen, but he wasn't really using his ears. He tapped the box lightly with a fingertip. With fine control, the force of his tap flowed into the box like silk, permeating every single bean. A few seconds later, he handed the box back, confident. "There's only one red bean in there." "Oh?" Bang's eyes widened, and he immediately opened the box. The three of them peered inside and saw no hint of red, just a large pile of ordinary yellow beans, or so it seemed. Seeing that, Saitama relaxed and grinned. "Hey, King, you guessed wrong. Hey, old man, are you cheating? You said there were red beans and yellow beans. Why are there only yellow ones?" Bang kept his composure, ready to explain, but Chen Xiao spoke up. "Bang, I already said, there's only one red bean in there, even if it's disguised as a yellow bean." "Huh?" Saitama frowned in confusion, but Bang clapped once, impressed. "As expected of King, you actually spotted my trick." Bang picked up one of the plain yellow beans and, using the precise force of his water-stream rock-smashing fist, channeled energy into it. The outer yellow shell shattered, and a small translucent red bean rolled out among the shards. Saitama's eyes went wide. He hadn't seen that coming. "Is that even allowed?" The world's strongest bald Demon King felt a twinge of wounded pride. Bang put the box away and asked, curious, "King, how did you detect that red bean hidden among all the yellow ones?" Chen Xiao lifted a finger. "Simple, you just feel it." He then turned to comfort a thoroughly dispirited Saitama. After a rough day, being crushed repeatedly in a fighting game, encountering a pervert while running an errand, and now losing at a small trick game, Saitama had had better days. Bang stood quietly, Chen Xiao's words echoing in his head. "You just have to feel it." After a long moment, he understood and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Truly worthy of being the Four, with remarkable attainments everywhere. In Bang's view, Chen Xiao had sensed the hidden bean because his soul could analyze the essence of things, and his spiritual perception had reached a transcendent level, a realm Bang himself had not reached. Saitama, still peeking at the put-away box, prodded, dissatisfied. "Say, old man, the game's over. When are you serving the 10? Saitama had come to the dojo for one reason, to eat that wagyu, not to play games with a lonely old man. Bang stroked his white beard and proposed calmly, "How about one more game? If you beat me, I'll give you an extra box of 10. Deal?" At the word competition and the promise of extra 10, Saitama agreed at once. Chen Xiao's gaze flicked to two props nearby, two small hammers and an iron basin. Now, he knew the game. He quietly pulled out his phone and readied the recorder. He intended to capture footage of a certain bald egg going red and keep it to tease later. Bang and Saitama sat on the floor facing each other. A small hammer lay beside each of them, and an iron basin sat in the middle. "The rules are simple," Bang explained. "The two players play rock, paper, scissors. The winner can use the hammer to hit the loser's head. After the round, the person being hit may pick up the iron basin to protect their head." Saitama was supremely confident in his rock, paper, scissors. He placed his hands in his lap with the grin of someone who expected to win. First round, Bang threw scissors, Saitama threw paper. As soon as he realized he'd lost, Saitama's pupils shrank and he lunged for the iron basin, but he was a beat too slow. Thud! The hammer landed with a dull, resonant smack on Saitama's head. Again, Saitama protested, not ready to give up. Chen Xiao sat to the side and quietly turned on the recording, zooming in on Saitama's 12 for a close-up. Brothers, please click to urge updates to support me. The author seems to have been targeted. This chapter was held for review for an hour before it passed, even though it didn't violate any rules. Karanko, standing to the side, flipped the scoreboard and shouted, "Round 2 begins." Saitama fixed his gaze on Bang, trying to read the old master's next move in their rock-paper-scissors duel. Bang, however, remained utterly calm, pure martial arts composure, the kind of face that wouldn't change even if Mount Tai collapsed. A faint smile lingered on his mouth. As usual, Saitama lost. Bang threw rock, Saitama scissors. Saitama hadn't even managed to touch the iron basin before the hammer connected with his head. Again! Thud! Damn it! Again! Thud! Why did I lose again? Again! Thud! Again! Thud! The thud sounded like drums and gongs. Time crawled on. Karanko, keeping score, was getting a little tired but flipped the board one more time. Round 65. Master still maintains a perfect winning streak. Chen Xiao watched from the sidelines. The camera trained on a certain shiny bald head, though it wasn't shiny anymore. It had started to turn red. Bang never broke his calm. Saitama, on the other hand, looked furious. His face was twisted with anger, veins bulging on his smooth scalp, his whole body trembling. The repeatedly struck spot on his head was beaten raw and even steamed white from the heat of his rage. Chen Xiao sipped his tea, curious. Even his own night guy hadn't been able to break through Saitama's defenses, yet this little hammer kept doing damage. Chen Xiao figured the redness was more from Saitama's blood boiling than from the hits themselves. Damn it, why can't I win even once? Round 66, begin! They threw their hands up together. Bang played paper, Saitama played scissors. Saitama's pupils pinched with joy. He reached for the little hammer without hesitation, perhaps delirious from the repeated abuse, perhaps just overexcited. His fingers slipped forward as he grabbed. The hammer's handle brushed past his fingertips and slid away. Damn it! The frustration that had been building in Saitama exploded. His features contorted, veins pulsing like cords. Bang, unhurried, picked up the iron basin between them and set it lightly on his head. He closed his eyes and memories rose, simple, warm memories of playing this exact game with his many tenths, of their furious yet helpless faces. It was nostalgic, almost tender. He opened his eyes again. The next instant, an unparalleled aura, deathly and cold, threatened to suffuse the room. From Bang's point of view, the world went blood-red as a violent, chilling force erupted from the bald figure in the yellow suit standing before him. Saitama had grabbed the hammer and poured every ounce of his pent-up frustration and anger into one strike. All of his life's moments flashed through his mind in an instant. These were not the cozy recollections Bang had just had. This was a death flash. If Bang didn't dodge, he would die. Bang's martial instinct screamed. He made a decision that broke the rules of the game. He vanished from his spot in a blur, leaving only the iron basin suspended midair. In the very next heartbeat, Saitama's hammer smote the basin with such ferocious force that an invisible shockwave radiated outward. Had he not held himself back, the entire dojo might have shattered. Hey, old man, you have no sense of gaming ethics? Are you supposed to dodge? Saitama barked, irritated. Bang scratched his gray hair awkwardly. He knew he'd technically cheated, but his intuition had told him that standing there would have meant his brain exploding like a ripe watermelon. Chen Xiao casually shut off the camera and took another drink of tea. This would make a fine piece of dark history to play for the bald guy later. Saitama, don't be angry. My loss. How about I give you an extra box of 6? Bang offered, putting his diplomacy into practice. He'd been watching Saitama and had a good handle on how he reacted. The magic word worked. Saitama's anger leaked away like air from a popped balloon, and his smile returned. That sounds great, old man. Just remember not to cheat again, okay? Bang turned his attention to Chen Xiao, considering whether to invite him to play next. Chen Xiao met his gaze and understood immediately what Bang was asking, but he had no interest in a rigged little game. With his heaven-defying luck, he could bully an opponent into doubting their entire existence with random choices. He wanted something else. Before Bang could speak, Chen Xiao said, "Old man Bang, I've heard your water stream rock-smashing fist has reached the transcendent realm. I'd actually like to learn it. What do you think?" Bang was stunned for a moment. Then a bright, sharp light flashed in his old eyes, and he smiled gently. "Of course you can, but the dojo won't withstand that level of impact. Let's go outside." On the surface, he looked composed, but inside he was elated. Brilliant. Although he hadn't managed to get Saitama truly into martial arts, he had unexpectedly piqued Chen Xiao's interest. The water stream rock-smashing fist might finally have a supremely strong successor. Updating every day. Dear readers, if you can, please send more update requests and free little gifts. If you have time, you can also write a written book review. Use the data to break through the dark room. The author thanks everyone here. 60. Flowing Water Rock Crushing Fist. Flowing Water Rock Crushing Fist. Suburbs. Chen Xiao and Bangu stood facing each other while Julie organized the ingredients nearby. That old man Bangu was dependable. He had already prepared the corresponding 16 ingredients in advance and had even made several extra portions of 10. Clearly, he had read the Saitama user manual and understood the Bald-Head Devil King's fondness for 10. Chen Xiao gave a small signal and slipped into fighting mode. His heartbeat grew louder and louder, a thunderous pounding echoing through his body. Thump, thump, thump. The surrounding world seemed to resonate with it, trembling in time. Hearing that engine-like rhythm, Bangu's expression turned serious. The legendary Emperor engine. The oppression from body and mind is immense. He lowered his center of gravity, swung his right hand back, and assumed the opening stance of the water stream rock crushing fist. "Come on, King. Today I'll let you taste the water stream rock crushing fist." Chen Xiao already knew that Bangu's style relied on countering, turning the opponent's force back against them. He'd been curious about how the water stream rock crushing fist actually worked in combat ever since reading the original. Now to spar with the founder himself felt like fulfilling an old dream. "All right, old man Bangu, be careful." The ground detonated beneath him, and Chen Xiao vanished like lightning, appearing before Bangu in an instant and throwing a punch. He didn't open the 8 gates. He relied purely on his raw physique. A violent gust of wind from the blow slapped Bangu in the face, and in that moment, the old man felt a grave crisis. Years of martial intuition told him just how powerful the strike was. He even sensed Chen Xiao hadn't gone all out. This blow had been held back. As expected of the three, its reputation is justified. But I'm not someone to be trifled with. Facing the incoming fist, Bangu raised his hands. His clenched fists traced secret patterns in the air, and a watery flow spread across his palms. The instant their fists met, the yielding force of the water stream rock-crushing fist burst forth, meeting Chen Xiao's fierce, unyielding power. In the next instant, Chen Xiao felt his punch diverted by just half a step. The force meant for Bangu was poured into the ground beside him. Boom, boom, boom. The redirected power surged into the earth, tearing the surface to pieces for dozens of meters. Web-like cracks fanned out for 100 meters, and a huge crater opened beneath Bangu's feet. Seeing that, Bangu broke out in a cold sweat. That was close. If I hadn't redirected that blow, my hands would have been shattered. Though he'd successfully deflected the attack, his aged palms trembled. He had taken a heavy hit. The ferocity of Chen Xiao's punch couldn't be entirely neutralized. Some of it still transmitted into Bangu's body. "Then it's my turn." Bangu's eyes narrowed. The watery force spread over his palms as he funneled everything he'd just absorbed and launched it back in a punch. Chen Xiao didn't dodge. A scorching chi and blood shield, like a blazing sun, flared across his body and enveloped him completely. Bang! With a dull thud, Chen Xiao was pushed back half a step. Tiny cracks appeared on the shield where the blow landed, but they healed themselves instantly. Bangu was stunned. So hard. That punch I threw just now didn't only use my own redirected force from the water stream rock-crushing fist, it also contained leftover power from Chen Xiao's original attack. It was like two forces fused into one strike, and still it barely dented his defense. Chen Xiao didn't hide his admiration. Is this the water stream rock-crushing fist? It not only neutralizes incoming force, but converts it and strikes back, an exquisite art. At the same time, he mentally replayed every move Bangu had made. His fine control passive let him manipulate every inch of power in his body. Once he'd caught the posture of the water stream rock-crushing fist, his body began to adopt the form on its own. Bangu had been marveling at Chen Xiao's solid defense and ferocious power, but then he froze. His aged eyes widened as if he'd seen something that shattered his worldview. Before him, Chen Xiao lowered his center of gravity and assumed the exact same opening stance. Chen Xiao's fist moved slowly, and the familiar sense of flowing water Bangu knew so well appeared in it. Every 17 and motion displayed the bearing of a true master. Bangu was dumbstruck. He had demonstrated the water stream rock-crushing fist only once, and the other party had instantly imitated it with proficiency, matching someone who had practiced it for years. This is the gold content of the Zero, truly worthy of being king. It wasn't just power that terrified him now. Chen Xiao's move comprehension had reached a transcendent level. His mind and insight were like a sage's. If before Bangu had only admired Chen Xiao's raw strength from his battle records, after facing him in person, this 70-year-old grandmaster respected the Zero from the bottom of his heart. They stepped forward at the same time, each seeing only the other. Bangu flashed forward, watery force swirling in his fists, a faint pale blue light tracing patterns through the air as he unleashed the water stream rock-crushing fist he'd spent years perfecting. Chen Xiao abandoned raw physical force and mirrored him, releasing the same technique. The two struck head-on. There will be another chapter later.